Welcome back, everybody, to the Creative James Media YouTube channel. Today, I am back with another interview with one of our wonderful authors. I am here with Vicki Ann Bush, and we're going to talk about Book 2 in the Alex McKenna series. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Vicki, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, this is a book that we knew we had to talk about because of the first one. It kind of lends the fact that this is going to be a series that's going to stand out, and so we're like, look, we've got to talk about all three and just make sure everybody knows exactly what they're about to read. For those who don't know you, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Okay, well, like Matt said, I'm Vicki Ann Bush, and I write young adult paranormal and paranormal romance. Um, the paranormal has always been something that's prevalent in my family on my mom's side. So most of the women in the family have what I call sensitivity to things that are like not maybe as clear to other people. And I have felt like this and seen things since I've been very young. And so it just seemed natural to take that into my writing and go down that road. It's just something that just comes easier for me.
Right.
Um, I wrote a couple books that were non-paranormal, and those, although I'm very happy with them, they were not exactly my most exciting journey because I needed to say something, but I did struggle a little bit because
Right.
I tend to drift towards the paranormal side. Most recently, I have had the I don't know if you want to say good fortune. To me, it's kind of like an accident to be able to write a short script that is inspired by the Alex McKenna series. It's kind of a prequel about how Alex and his girlfriend met and came together. And I was able to also wear a producer's hat, which was something very new for me. And I also had a short part in it as well. So it is now an award winning short film. And I am very hesitantly attaching award winning scriptwriter and producer to my name, which sounds very bizarre to me.
It's the first of many. This is just to wet your feet and then see where it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's very different than writing a novel.
I would imagine so. I've never had any experience with screenplays, but to me, it seems like a whole different level of creativity. Um, why don't you talk a little bit about uh, the Academy of Souls, which comes out October 15th?
The Academy of Souls is, like you said, the second book of the series. Now, each book is a standalone. So we say series because the common thread is Alex, his family, and Margaret, his girlfriend. But the Academy of Souls finds Ophelia. Ophelia is a ghost, and she presides at the Academy of Souls, which is a high school for teens that have passed on, but they're not moving forward. They, for whatever reason, they have not went on to the life after, and it's kind of a safe haven that has been established for them. And Ophelia isn't like other ghosts because she has still an attachment to the living. She still feels certain things. She still takes a shower. She still sleeps, so she has some things that are going on with her that she has no idea why.
Right.
And about 100 or so years ago, her and her little sister were killed in a car accident, and they got separated. And she's been searching for her little sister the whole time. And Alex, not knowing them, gets a visitation from Haven, who is Ophelia's little sister. And he doesn't know who she is. He doesn't know what's going on, but he does sense that he's got to further this. He's got to find out what's going on with her. And then Ophelia makes the connection. And this starts the journey of Alex traveling over through the veil and over to the other side to the Academy of Souls with his girlfriend Margaret, who wasn't supposed to go, but kind of attached herself. And now he's on the other side helping Ophelia and her friends find Haven and rescue her.
Right. I think it's a different touch when you think about paranormal, where you said that she's still taking a shower, she's still sleeping, she's still going through all these things that normally would be an alive person's activities.
Right.
Um, that's definitely not something you normally would hear in a paranormal novel.
Right. And you do find out why at the end. You do find out why this has happened to her. And there is a reason.
Right.
But it was kind of fun to write because you're going over the confines of the dead and you're mixing it with the living in one person.
Right.
So that was fun.
That's kind of where Geranium Deaths kind of pulled me in. Was, he had the little boy that he was talking to, and
Jacob.
it took me a minute to catch on that, like, this little boy's not here. So that's the aspect that you're able to write it in so well that it almost feels like it's a natural progression. Like nothing's even off. Nothing's even going on. Um, would you say, compared to Geranium Deaths, which part of this book, I mean, if any at all, honestly, was the hardest for you to write or plan out?
The character of Omri, who is Ophelia's best friend at the academy, is based on, or inspired by, I should say, my cousin Mary. And I just took her name and, switched the two first letters to get Omri. And Mary was a beautiful, beautiful soul, both outside and in. And she was a couple of years younger than me. And unfortunately, what are we in 2004? So I think it was about 4 years ago, we lost her to cancer. And it really hit me, even though Mary was still back east in New York where I was from, and I lived out west for many years. You still have that attachment, that time that you're growing up together as kids, that, it's a very strong developmental time for people. And you make these bonds and, it's family.
Right.
So it stays with you. And when I was writing, I had talked to her husband a little bit after she passed, and I wanted to incorporate Mary in here, just kind of as a memory, to keep
Right.
her memory going. And Omri was the perfect choice. And there was a scene in the book at the very end when Omri is confronted by the love of her life, who she lost when she passed away. And I took the stories that Mary's husband told me, the emotions and everything, and I put it into that scene. And when I was writing that scene, it was difficult for me because my connection went beyond Omri and into Mary. So that would have been the hardest for me.
Kind of dredging up those memories and the things that you cherished with each other, and kind of trying to put it in a way that it brings good light, and adds to the character. Um, in your opinion, what do you think draws people to Alex's story so much?
I have to say, most of the time, at least this is what they tell me, they like the fact that Alex is a transgender boy, but that's not what the focus of the stories are. The focus of the stories is the paranormal, because the
Right.
idea is, and what I wanted to create was a character where being transgender is just part of who he is,
Right.
you know, and Alex is who Alex is. The paranormal, now, that's the part that, I want the reader to focus on. I want them to be drawn in on. The fact that he happens to be transgender is just, kind of sprinkled in because that's what I think, and this is just my personal opinion, but I think in the LGBTQ community that we need more. We need more movies, more books, more characters
Yes.
that go beyond that, because whether somebody is transgender or gay or cis, that really shouldn't be the
That's
total
not,
focus of the
right.
person.
That's
There's so
not them.
right. Well, it's a part of them, right?
Well,
There's
yes,
so
but
much
yeah,
more to them, right? There's all these other things that make you up, right? And
exactly.
I think that that's where we need to get a little more active in
Exactly.
creating these things.
Yeah, and
Because
I had that conversation about a month back with Diane for her upcoming book, Superficial.
Diane Billis, yeah,
Yep,
her
because
books are very good.
right, yeah, and we kind of talked about that, how it's, you were just saying we need to see the person, not, and
Right.
it's kind of the same thing. I mean, not exactly the same thing, but when somebody's sick, like if you've
Mhm.
got mental health or cancer or something like that, that's not the person. That just happens to be what they deal with
Mhm.
and what's currently going on in their life. And we need to be like, instead of being like, oh man, and you know, what can we do for you? What do you need?
Mhm.
Instead of focusing on everything else. Um, how long did it take you to write book two versus book one, or was it kind of about the same time frame?
It was a little bit longer with two, only because at the same time I was going through the loss of my mom. So it distracted me
Right.
emotionally. It ruined me at the time. So it was a little bit harder,
Yeah.
but it was also a good outlet. So it had its yin and its yang.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be the thing too. Like, creativity is one of those things that it can be imaginative, it can be an escape, but also at the same time it's healing,
Yes.
depending on, the art form that you've chosen. But at least I've found that no matter what it is, whether I'm writing music, writing a book, singing, whatever, as long as I'm doing something that's kind of letting my brain explore other avenues and something new,
Hmm.
that's definitely what does it.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel the same way.
And I mean, it's a powerful thing. It's just like, nature as well. It's the same thing. If you could be troubled and you could have so many things on your mind, but you go and sit out beside a lake on a park bench, and there's nobody else around, and you're just staring at the water and the way it's moving. You're going to go home with a calmer mind and
Hmm.
a calmer heart. And we don't know how it happens. It's a mystery, but it's one that I'm grateful for, honestly.
It's true. My dad was a musician. Now, he got offered a recording contract a long time ago, back in the 50s. And he said no. And they were like, no. And he said, and this is what he told me and my brother, that he plays music for himself.
Right.
So it's his way of unwinding, it's his way of healing, it's his way of escaping. And if he was doing it for a job, then it would take that away from him.
Yep.
He would be the kind of guy that, do you know, I don't know if you're probably too young for this, but years ago, when in the malls they would have like the piano player in the middle of
Yep.
the, okay, so there would be so many times where we would be out shopping with my mom and dad, right? And my mom would turn around and she'd be like, where's dad? And then we could hear, all of a sudden we hear the piano, and you could tell we knew our dad, so we knew his type of playing. And we're like, oh no. So we go out to the center. The guy went on a break who was playing, and dad just sat down and started playing. He got offered so many jobs doing that. And it was just funny. But at first, when I was a kid, I didn't understand that. But as I got older, it made sense to me.
Right.
He was doing it for his own peace.
Right. And there's one thing too. I have several friends who are musicians, and they could have taken contracts, but instead, their music is not necessarily it's not normal, but like it's their life. They're telling their story. They're telling their truth
Yes.
through it. And yes, they release it to the public. Yes, they play concerts, but it's when they want to. It's
Right.
when they feel like somebody else might need to hear that. It's when they've already healed from whatever is in that song. So I definitely get, how it would kind of dampen um, the outlet, so to speak, if you
Mhm.
if you took that contract. Um, in this book, will we see a whole new set of characters, or will there be some repeats, visitors sprinkled in?
In this particular one, it's the only one of the series. There's going to be four, and it's the only one of the series that takes you away from Floral Park, takes you away from the family. Like in the very beginning, there's a small interaction with Alex and his grandmother, and his mom and brother, but the rest of the book is all new characters because that's when he gets over to the Academy of Souls with Margaret. So it's him and Margaret that are the constant in this book, and everybody else is basically new characters.
Right. And see, I think that's important that like you have that balance of you have some visitors from previous ones, but also at the same time you're adding in the new ones to kind of set up the next book. You're like, okay, we didn't quite complete the first journey, but it is going to hold a place in the next one. This question is interesting because we just got some news today. Actually, I think is when we
Yeah,
talked about it.
yeah.
How do you balance writing screenplays versus your books? Because you just had the Geranium Deaths win an award at a film festival.
Yeah, it was Telluride, new, and I'm gonna look over here because I know I can't remember anything. Telluride New Stories Film Festival, and it won Best Original Feature Script, which is my first feature and also an adaptation of the Geranium Deaths.
Right.
So I told you I had written the short, which you know about, but this was the first time writing a feature, and it is so different writing scripts than it is writing a novel because you have to think that when you're writing a novel, you're the narrator, you're telling the story, you can go into depth into what the character is thinking. When you're writing a script, this is what you say. This is it. And so it was very hard for me in the beginning of writing the short film to remember that I'm not narrating this. I'm not giving all of this information. And the editor that I worked with, who was my mentor, would get back, he would send it back to me and he'd be like, well, how's the audience going to know that? How do we know that? Really, we're not in their head. How do we? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, I had to learn. I basically learned that with a short film. When I went in to do the feature, I tried really hard to be true to the book, but it went over the allotted pages that you're supposed to have. And I had to learn how to edit it until someone said to me, someone who is actually has written a plethora of scripts and is in the industry, said to me, here's what I think. The book is the book and the screenplay is the screenplay. So I had to have that click in my head. I'm following the storyline to be as true as I can, but I can't pack in 300 pages into a 2-hour film. You just can't.
Right.
So that's the difficulty that I have with the feature.
Yeah, it seems like it would, especially if you're writing about the same thing, and this is a great example that it would kind of, for me, would be a little hard to keep straight because you're like, I really want to share that part, but then you're like,
Exactly. Exactly. It's like what another friend says, what is that saying? Kill your darlings. You have to know when to kill your darlings. And I'm like, but I can't. It's got to go in there.
right.
And then I finally had to go, okay, I got to take it out.
Yeah, that's a struggle sometimes. Honestly, it's just you gotta choose your battles, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, you do.
Shifting gears a little bit. How would you say, if at all, your concept of inspiration has developed over your writing career? Because for those who don't know, you've written a lot of other books. These are not, the Alex McKenna series, Liminal Space. You've written quite a few before those.
Hmm. Um, Say that question again.
How would you how would you say your concept of inspiration has evolved throughout, your writing career, throughout spanning different genres and kind of trying to figure
You
out.
know, my concept of inspiration i- is mostly everything around me. I know that sounds so cliche, but it really is. If I'm out to dinner with the family, it could be a server that's coming up, to the table that something stands out to me, or it's an especially beautiful desert sky, the sun's setting, and the inspiration comes from that. I don't know that it's evolved so much as um, it's just broadened. Does that make sense? Okay,
Oh,
so not
completely.
so much that it's just I take in a bigger picture,
Right.
you know, whereas in the very beginning it was more of the people that I knew, which I mean there are little bits of in my characters of people
Right.
that I know and people that I meet, but in the very beginning, the first few books, like The Garden of Two was the first novel I wrote, and that's based off of emotions that I had when I was 16 and meeting the man that would become my husband, and that's where Lily and Charlie come in their relationship. That's totally motivated by that, my life that way,
Right.
other than the fact that I was not born during World War I, but now it can be the tiniest little thing that I observe and it'll click with me. Whereas maybe before I wouldn't have been as in tune to that, to bring that into a story.
You kind of would have, for lack of a better term, you would have had some blinders
Yes, that's
to go
exactly
through.
it. Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, because I think the longer you work at your craft, no matter what it is, it could be, writing, making movies, engineering, whatever the case may be. I think the longer that you do it and the more you discover that there's so much more beyond what we're taught, beyond what we
Hmm.
see in front of us, that's when you kind of start to get a bigger picture of what's going on.
Hmm. I agree.
Um, what is one of your favorite books that you've read recently, if you've had a chance to read this past year?
Um, you know, I read, what is the title? It's going to escape me. It's a very serious book, but it did really hit me. It's called Night by oh my gosh, what is the author's name? It's a story. It's a personal story about World War II
Okay.
and what had happened to him. And I guess because it was a personal account as opposed to anything else I have ever read that was kind of more general.
Right.
It just hit home. In fact, I have the book in the other room sitting on a stand because it hit me so much that I don't know. I felt like it needed a place of prominence,
Right.
you know. And it's not like what I normally read because I normally read paranormal. I'm a big Kuntz fan. I read just about everything that the man puts out. I like Stephen King. I'm just a little bit more Kuntz though, but and those are my kind of like usual reads. Um, I liked Crave by Tracy Wolff. That was fun. That was a fun read. But this book, Night, just I don't know. It just got my soul. It hit my soul.
That's I think that's important though. When I think, as people, in order for us to learn and grow, we have to have those books, that the ones that entertain us, but then we have to have the ones that are the most thought provoking, that are
Hmm.
making us step outside our comfort zone, trying to think about something, to broaden our horizons and kind of push us past what we would normally see.
Hmm. I
Um,
feel so guilty not being able to remember the author's name right now. I am just so racked from this week, flying out, flying in. I don't know what I'm doing.
That happens. What advice would you give to new or aspiring authors?
You know, the question I get asked all the time at book signings by new or aspiring authors is, I've been thinking about self-publishing, but I don't know. Should I go traditional? Should I, And in the very beginning, and I hate to admit this, but in the very beginning, when I first started with my first book, I got a publisher. So I was never self-published. And I think it gave me a limitation to my thinking, because since then I have many, many friends who self-publish and absolutely love it. So I think what I would say to new authors or authors that are thinking of publishing is that when you think of what you want to do, whether you want to self-publish or whether you want to be a traditional publisher, and by traditional I mean not a vanity press. I'm saying you can have an indie publishing company that's still traditional. You have a contract, you have to adhere to things. You're not paying them. So to me, that's traditional. Is it a big five? No, but it's still traditional. Okay. I think it's a personal choice, and I don't think that there is anything wrong with being self-published or anything wrong with being traditionally published. I think it's what fits for you, what makes you comfortable, what is important to you, the things, the elements that maybe are, stand out for being self-published. Maybe you feel you have more control and you want to do that. Or maybe you want to go traditional because you like the idea someone's going to do a cover for you and you don't have to worry about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my advice would be, go with your own instinct and do what feels right for you. And don't let anybody judge you, and say you made a mistake doing this, you made a mistake doing that, unless it's a vanity press. Do not pay.
Right.
Do not pay a vanity press.
I think too, it comes down to, you have to ask questions. You have to do your research. You need to
Yes.
weigh your options.
Yes.
Don't just go with the first company that
Right.
offers you something, or don't go with the first service that says, hey, we can format this. Do your research, take your time. You want it to be done right the first time. Don't settle for something because you think that, oh man, if I speak up on this thing, then they're not going to want to take it.
Right. Right. Don't let fear guide you. And
Exactly.
also, look, you put all that work into that book. You did research for that book, right?
Yep.
Why would you stop now? Make
Exactly.
sure that you follow through and that the decision that you make is the right decision for you.
Exactly.
Everybody wants to get the book published and get it out there, right? And sometimes that will drive us to make a quick decision without thinking about it.
Yes.
Take a breath. Take a breath, look at the picture, the big picture, and make the decision that's right for you.
Exactly. I think that's where some of us go wrong too. And honestly, we've all done it once or twice in our life, whether it's publishing or, whatever the case may be. But, just take your time, and it's your baby. Make sure that, you're not compromising for anything.
Right.
Before we end off, besides, your online launch party that we host, do you have anything set up already that you would like to share?
It's going to be a little lean right now because we are getting ready to relocate. And so I try not to take too much, but I do have a couple of appearances, and this is terrible, but I know they're in October. But if you go to my website, VickiAnnBush.com, under events, it'll show you where I'm going to be.
Okay. Yeah, we will also link that in the description for you guys, so you can go down there. You can check out our website, find all the books, and do all of the things. And experience Alex's world for yourself. Vicki, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.